Dr. Deborah Soh is with us. She's the author of the book, The End of Gender, the host of the Dr. Deborah Soh podcast. She did a podcast with me. Deborah, what was it, about a year ago? Maybe, I don't even know. Time is flying now.
Oh, my goodness, time goes so fast.
I know. But anyway, it's fascinating. If you want to go really in-depth, look for that podcast. You can go to youtube.com/Glenn Beck. Or, download it wherever you get your podcast and listen to that whole hour. Deborah, thank you so much for being on with me today. You heard the story of my son, Ruby, Sarah's daughter. She's 12. She had the same thing, and we don't even know what we're doing. We don't even know how to argue this. Can you help us on the gender versus sex argument for our kids?
Yes, that's what I'm here for. And thank you for having me back.
You bet.
So I find it so terrifying that this is being taught in kids' curriculum. I mean, my book basically talks about this the entire way through, about how activists are intentionally targeting kids with this ideology. So I guess the way I could start is to explain it for your audience, and then maybe how they might go about approaching it with their kids.
Okay.
So the difference between sex and gender: sex, biological sex, is determined by biology. So this is determined by gametes, which are mature reproductive cells. So you
gametes?
Gametes, yes.
Okay.
So there are eggs and there are sperm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then gender identity refers to how we feel in relation to our biological sex. So statistically speaking, 99% of us identify as our birth sex. So you, Glenn, you were born male, as far as I know, and you identify as male. For that 1% of the population who does not identify as their birth sex, these are transgender people or intersex people. Some intersex people identify as transgender. So they identify as the opposite sex. So someone might be born male and identify as female, or vice versa. And then you have some people who, and intersex refers to people who are born with a medical condition in which they possess both male and female anatomy.
And intersex, that used to be called hermaphroditism, right?
Yeah, yes, that's not considered a sensitive term today. So intersex is usually preferred, or people with a difference in sex development. And then there are some people who identify as a third gender. So there's an example of this would be non-binary or gender fluid, or some people use the term gender queer, although I don't like that term because I consider queer to be a slur. But science shows that there are two sexes, two genders. I say people can identify however they want, but from a scientific perspective, there are two. And so
if we stay on science, this is the part that was all falling apart, because I said to my son, chromosomes, you can scientifically find out if you are a male or a female in 99% of the cases. Scientifically, because of the way you're built, you're either male or female. That's science and biology. Gender is different, and it didn't used to be different. But I don't agree with, identifying as 100 different things, because I believe there's only two. And I believe if you want to be transgendered, you scientifically are not the other gender, but you are choosing to be that other gender. And, some parts have been changed on you, and that's fine. And I don't hate you for it, and I'm, whatever. But you're not a female if you were a male. That doesn't fly anymore, does it?
No. So biological sex, the concept of biological sex has been deemed hateful, and I don't think it needs to be. I understand why, because I think it can be used in a very insensitive way to marginalize people who identify as transgender. But from a scientific perspective, someone who, say a trans woman, she may identify as female, and I'm happy to acknowledge her as female, but from a biological perspective, she was born male. So her sex does not change.
Wait. Because this is what I'm saying to my son. Look, if I know you, and even if I don't know you, and you're identifying as a female and you were a male, you still biologically, still scientifically, you are a male. However, if you identify as a female, I have no problem saying, "Hi, ma'am, how are you?" Whatever, unless that's offensive now, and identifying. However, if push comes to shove and my son, or I'm, in a court of law or whatever, and my son says, she looks awfully manly, I would say, don't say that. That's not nice. But he used to be a he, and now he's had surgery and he's trying to be a woman, and that's his choice. And it is, it's fine that he's his choice, but I can't, under oath, or, I'm not going to be a part of a lie. Am I wrong on that?
No, I agree with that. I mean, I have a chapter in The End of Gender that talks about the differences between women who are born women and trans women, because nowadays the narrative is that there are no differences. And again, I think we can talk about these differences, as you mentioned, in a way that is compassionate, but still also be scientifically accurate, because there are differences, and those differences play out in meaningful ways. And I think especially when it comes to this ideology, it's extremely confusing and it's dishonest to tell people otherwise.
So how do we, now let's talk to our kids. Your kid sits down with you, Deborah, and says, "Mom, I'm being called hateful because I'm talking about science. And they're saying sex doesn't matter. It's all about gender." What do I say?
What I would suggest saying to a child is that I would say from as young as an age you can, let them know that what they're being taught in school may not actually reflect reality, which is really sad to have to say, but plant the seed so that they know and that they feel they can come and talk to you and ask questions, because they are going, they're targeting kids in kindergarten now. I heard you speak about how this is in first grade curriculum. It's completely inappropriate. And this is something that's probably going to be with them throughout their education. I mean, it's not going to be a one-time thing. If it's not in, say, anti-bullying curriculum or other aspects of their coursework, it's going to be in talks where they bring people to the school to, bring awareness to these issues, which I think is good. But the issue is it goes way too far, right? When they're teaching kids things that are not factually true, and like you said, 100 genders or however many people, everyone's gender fluid. So I would say let them know that the science says that there are two sexes, two genders. For the most part, gender and sex are the same. And as you said, with gender reveal parties, those are actually sex reveal parties, because an unborn child cannot tell an adult which gender they are. So,
okay, but wait, that's new, right? I mean, gender and sex used to be the same thing, right?
Yeah, for the most part. And I think sometimes people will use the word gender because they don't want to use the word sex, because sex has that connotation with human sexuality, and they don't want to use that word. But I think the separation between sex and gender is this greater push from trans activism. But then there's also this weird conflation, because now what some activists will say is that a trans person, so a trans woman, is biologically female, which is not true. And I don't think it should be considered bigoted to say that, because it's just not factually true. So there's so much confusion about it. And then I would just say, let your kids know people can identify as a third gender if they want or whatever. But again, and be kind to these people, but science is what it is. Of
course. So we're talking to Dr. Deborah Soh. She is a sex neurologist, or neuroscientist, I should say. And she has written a great deal about this. Have you ever thought about writing something either for parents or for kids? And when I say kids, I mean, teenagers that are just being bombarded with this stuff.
I've gotten so many requests from parents to do something like that. I would say The End of Gender is written. The feedback I've gotten has been so positive, and people have said to me that they can fully understand what I'm saying. It was written in a way that makes the science almost fun to read, which made me very happy to hear. So I would say teenagers could even read The End of Gender. I would love to do something for younger, like school age. I mean, I guess teenagers are technically school age, but even younger than that. Because it's crazy. It's crazy that basic information like this, you would think that putting them in school would take care of it, but that's not the case anymore.
And when they say, that's not what science says. Science doesn't say that. When they start to argue that, you're on rock solid ground to say, no, you're wrong about that. Science shows that transgender girl is not a girl. She still has the makeup of a male athlete, or not?
Correct. Correct. I mean, I would say that's another super contentious issue. But again, I think we have to be able to talk about it because there are serious implications in this case for girls who are competing against them.
Yeah. So are you solid? Are you on solid ground with the science on that?
Yeah, what I would say is actually in my book, I have all of the citations. So you can use that as a reference because I would have colleagues who would say to me, what do I do when I go into these meetings with the principal or administration and they say the quote unquote new science backs up what they're teaching? And I said, well, that was the inspiration of my book, was to offer a reference to people who just want to know objectively what is the truth. All the citations are there, so you can look up the studies yourself and you can bring it to them and say, this is why your curriculum or your policies are not fact-based. But yeah, when it comes to sports especially, I'm just aghast at what has been happening lately. It's just, it's unbelievable.
How's your life? Is it settled down some? Are you still getting as much hate as you used to? How's your life?
As much as I ever have, but I've gotten used to it at this point. And I just feel that the most remarkable thing is that it's always the same criticisms. Either they lie about what I've said, they lie about what's in the book. They'll explicitly say, critics will explicitly say things, claim I've said things that I've said the exact opposite of. Or they'll just do personal attacks. They'll call me names, which tells me that they don't actually have a point and that they can't actually argue with what I'm saying. I recently gave a talk at the Oxford Union, and it blew my mind the extent to which some students went trying to get that talk deplatformed. And so I'm super grateful. I was given the go-ahead to speak by the President James Price, and there are some people who will stand up against it. And Glenn, thank you for having me on. I mean, you've had me on multiple times, and we just have to keep going.
Yeah, we do.